Hey there, writer rebels. So what the heck is a brand audit? Join me today while I tell you all about what a brand audit is, how it can help you out as an author, and how to get the most out of your brand audit. Hello everyone, it is me, Scarlett Kol, young adult author of sci-fi and fantasy books, YouTuber, and storyteller. And I am here today to talk about writing and publishing as I usually do here on Thursdays. This week we are going to be talking about brand audits, specifically because I recently had a brand audit done. If you've watched any of my vlog content or some of the videos that I've put out kind of over the last month or so, I have mentioned this a couple of times, but I wanted to dive deeper into what exactly happened for this brand audit, why I chose to do a brand audit, and what I kind of got out of it, and how to help people who are interested in looking into getting a brand audit done themselves. However, before we get too far, I did want to say thank you to any of you who are subscribers of my channel or keep coming back to watch my content. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me each week. And if you are just brand new to this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I have many other topics to discuss if you want to scroll around and check those out. But before you go, make sure that you're hitting that subscription bar and the notification bell below this video so that you aren't going to miss any new videos from me. If you are also liking this video, make sure you're hitting the thumbs up to let YouTube know this is something worth watching. So as I was saying, I recently underwent a brand audit in January. I chose to go with someone named Angela Ann. You may recognize her name as she is a booktuber, authortuber here on the YouTube platform already. So if you have heard of her or you've seen her channel already, she is not going to be new to you, but she may be new to brand audits for you. So hopefully you are going to get something out of this video, and maybe you might want to head over to her website as well. If you are interested in that, I have left her details in the description box below. However, Angela is not the only one out there doing brand audits. As I am with anything that I do, I'm very skeptical on basically anything that I have to put money to or make a commitment to. So when I found out about Angela doing brand audits, I thought that was fantastic, but I did spend some time doing some research to see exactly what brand audits were, who else was offering brand audits, what they were offering for price-wise, and all of those sorts of things. In the end, I did decide to go with Angela for a few different reasons. One, I really liked the package she was offering, and number two, she is already kind of in that author book space. There are other audit firms out there, and there probably are other brand audits that focus on author or book content, but I knew for a fact, because Angela was in that space, that she was going to understand the things that I was trying to do. So I liked that extra layer on top of it. Not only was she going to assess my brand, she was going to be able to assess it based on who I was as an author and my books as well, and really understand that publishing author kind of lifestyle. So that's why I went with Angela for this. However, there are other options for brand audits. When I talk about everything that I went through, obviously I'm going to be speaking from my own experience, so this is going to be from the package that I received from her. However, there are different ways that people do things, and depending on what you pay for and who you're dealing with, things may vary a little bit based on what you ordered. So keep that in mind, that not everything is exactly the same, but generally speaking, you're probably going to have a very similar experience with whomever that you are hiring. All right, so what is this thing called a brand audit? If you are an author or a writer, I'm sure you have heard several times that you need to work on your author platform. Your author platform is very important. You need to work on your platform. I'm sure you've heard this 100 billion jillion times. Well, in terms of a brand audit, it's looking at all of those pieces that you use to build your platform and assess them and make sure that they are doing the things that they are supposed to. So a brand audit can be very specific to one particular leg of your platform, such as Instagram or your newsletter, your website, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, whatever it is that you're into. Or it could be something that you look at more holistically, where somebody's going to be looking at all of those platforms and everything that you put out there to build your author name and your brand. So depending on what you pay for and who you go with is going to depend on how much mileage you're going to get from that. The package that I had, I was dealing with 4 different platforms. So I did have Angela take a look at a couple of different things. Plus she was able to look at those in relationship to each other as well to make sure that cohesively things were making sense. But she didn't look at absolutely everything that I was doing because that's not what I requested. And maybe she did in the background, but I did not request those things. So it was only a portion of my platform that she was looking at, but it was the areas that I felt that I needed the most help or confirmation of what I was doing. So what exactly was done for a brand audit? So basically, I can't really give exactly the advice that I was given on the specific platforms, because obviously this is a proprietary thing, and if you are interested in getting a brand audit, you can get all of that kind of advice. Plus, the thing with advice is what may work for one may not be working for another. However, the context that they're kind of looking at your various different platform legs, or single leg if you're only interested in taking a look at, say, Instagram, then they're going to let you know what you're already doing well, what you might be missing out of your platform or what you're doing in that space, what you could improve on, anything that could definitely help you out, possibly new and trending sorts of things, whether you're hitting the market you're trying to hit, plus the nice bonus of not having you to do all of that research on your own. You can definitely follow YouTube videos, read all the blogs, do all the research to figure out what the best practices are for every single social media, newsletter, website platform out there. However, by getting a brand audit, it's going to be zeroed in on what you particularly need based on what your business is, what you're trying to sell, and what you're trying to do with your platforms. Plus, it's going to bring all of those things into one place. So it's going to save you time, as well as make sure that it's personalized and customized to what you're trying to do. In my particular situation, I had her look at my Instagram, specifically because this was an area that I wanted to try and grow in. TikTok, because I was rather new to TikTok and I was trying to grow in that area as well. Number 3, I had her take a look at my newsletter, because I do find that a newsletter is still a super, super important marketing tactic, even though I know we're still getting inundated all the time with email from various different things, every single company out there. But email lists are the only things that authors really control. So I still think it's important to have a strong newsletter and have a strong newsletter presence. However, that is a whole other video. And the 4th thing I had her take a look at was my YouTube channel. So if you've been watching my YouTube channel for a while, you've probably noticed a few different changes that I've implemented over the last month and a half. So hopefully you are enjoying some of that stuff, and I'm hoping to implement some more changes going forward. So based on those 4 platforms, she went through all of my back posting, everything that I had done, and basically came up with a report indicating all of those things that I discussed, what I was doing well, what I was missing, what I could be doing better, and gave me some concrete steps and suggestions of ways to move forward on every single one of those platforms. In this particular package that I had, she also offered a small 15-minute consultation, so that way it gave me an opportunity to ask any questions that I may have after reading through the report, in case there was something that I didn't understand. So that personal touch was something that I really, really liked, and it was a lot easier to talk through some things as opposed to just reading it on a report. Depending on what you're getting for your brand audit or what you're paying for, the mileage on that obviously is going to vary. But I did really like the fact that I had a written report that I could digest and consume, and then have the opportunity to ask questions later. So you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, so who exactly needs a brand audit? Well, technically nobody actually needs a brand audit. It's just a matter of whether or not this is something that you want to do to try and level up your author career and your author brand. So basically anybody at any stage of their career could really get use out of this. If you've just started building your author platform, getting a brand audit can help you just get yourself on the right path and move forward in the right way. A lot of people myself included, make a lot of mistakes when they start out on social media and they're building their brand as an author. So getting started properly when you are right out of the gate is going to help you move ahead a little bit faster, because you're going to make a few of those less rookie mistakes that most people would make. Or you could be somebody who's kind of in the middle like I am. I've been doing social media for a while. Some of the stuff that I know is working, some of the stuff I know isn't working. I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I kind of know where I want to get to. I know where I want to grow in. So this is just helping me bring all of that information together, get there a little bit faster, and find out the stuff that is working and that isn't working from an objective third party, as opposed to assessing it myself. Just because I like to do something doesn't necessarily mean that it's working. So this was a way of really assessing those things and finding out what I'm doing right and what isn't necessarily hitting its mark as it should be. And this can also still be really useful for those people who have been at it for a long time and feel that they've kind of got it down. Maybe this isn't something that you would want to do very often, but periodically it might not be a bad idea to get a brand audit to check out how you're doing. Just because you've been doing something for a while that's been relatively successful, maybe there are things that you could be doing to level up from there, or maybe some of those things are starting to get stale and you've never really noticed it. Plus, it's also an easier way to keep up on the trends. There's a lot of things with social media and newsletters, websites that change over time. And if you are not evolving and changing as well, that can be okay depending on who your target audience is. But eventually, some of those algorithms on social media sites are going to not necessarily penalize you, but you aren't going to get the growth or exposure that you want. Plus, some of the things like newsletters and websites, you're probably going to want to refresh from time to time. So getting a brand audit can be a really good way of figuring out the core things that make sense for your brand that you really need to keep doing, and those things that you might be able to change up to get even further ahead than where you are. So I'm sure this all sounds very, very simple. Somebody takes a look at your brand, they tell you what's good, they tell you what's bad, you change it, you move on. Well, it's really not all that simple. There are a lot of things that do go into it and a lot of things that you do need to consider when you are getting a brand audit. So I do have some tips as well on how to get the most out of a brand audit if you are considering doing that. So the first thing I want to suggest is make sure you do your research. If you are interested in doing a brand audit like I did, I picked somebody that made sense in the area of business that I was conducting. I found somebody, who is a writer, who understands books and all of that sort of thing. There are a lot of various different firms out there who understand that, who've worked with authors, who've worked with books. But just like you wouldn't hire a criminal lawyer to do your entertainment law contracts, you wouldn't want to get somebody who's really not into the things that you're into, or at least understands it or have dealt with other clients like that. Maybe they're very IT firm based. They're probably not going to have the same sort of suggestions that you need from an author or book standpoint. So before you jump into anything like that, make sure that you're finding somebody that fits what you're trying to do and also fits your budget. You can basically pay anywhere for a brand audit. As I was doing my research, there's a lot of people who charge a lot of money to cover a lot of different bases, where there's some that you can go more a la carte, where you just pick a specific social media function or something like that. Find out those things that you absolutely need. If there's things that are really working for you, maybe focus on the things that are new to you or you don't understand as well, or rotate them through. Try something this time, maybe have them look at your Twitter account if that's something that's really important to you. And then if that goes well, the following year or a few months down the road or a couple years down the road, have them take a look at your newsletter, and then just rotate things through when it makes sense for you financially. But definitely don't jump in both feet without understanding what you're getting, who you're getting it from, and whether it makes sense. My second suggestion on how to get the most out of your brand audit is be honest with the person auditing you, what your concerns are, and what your commitment level is. For me, for instance, I know, and I've heard it everywhere, I'm sure everybody's heard it, that, if you want to grow on TikTok, you need to be posting 6 to 8 times a day, or this is what you need to do all these sorts of things. Well, I talk about this a lot on my channel. I have a couple of kids. I have a very busy job during the day. I'm still trying to write. I'm doing all these other things. I don't have a huge amount of time. As much as I'm committing time to do these things because I think they're important, I know I'm not going to be able to keep up with 6 to 8 posts during the day, even though this is really common practice and these are the things that are going to help me grow. I know this. So being upfront with Angela on, I'm a very busy mom and I do not write full-time. I cannot commit full-time hours to being an author, and my author career was something that was really important. So when she was giving me feedback on, frequency of posting and the amount of time that I could spend with doing different things and making things more creative, she was very cognizant in her comments as to, this may not work for you, or I understand what your constraint is, so here's some suggestions that I have to make it easier for you in your particular lifestyle. This is obviously going to be a lot more valuable to me than if I had not said anything to her at all, because anybody can give you blanket advice on how things work. The best practices for certain platforms or certain things that you're doing, like your newsletter, don't necessarily work for everyone's lifestyle. But if you don't tell anybody that that's what your constraints are, then they're not going to know that, and they're just going to be able to give you that generic advice that isn't going to work for you. Also, if you have specific areas of concern, then they can focus more in those particular areas. If you're looking at various different platforms, this is going to be different than one particular platform because obviously you have an issue with that. But if you have particular concerns or things that you know you're not doing well or you're worried that you're not doing well, don't just sit back and see if they bring it up. By doing that, they might not actually address it or really look into it the way that you need it to be looked at. So make sure that you're very honest with what you kind of want to get out of this and who you are as a person and what you can really implement going forward. Getting suggestions that aren't going to work for you is going to be a waste of money. My next suggestion is don't be afraid to give things a try. So you may get some suggestions that don't make sense to you, or you're like, I'd never want to do that. Well, if it's not something that's completely off the wall or that you can't handle, maybe give it a shot. Just because it doesn't sound like something that's going to work for you, you don't know that for a fact until you've actually given it a try. Unless you are completely uprooting your entire system and that is something that you just cannot do, give it a shot. It's not going to hurt anything. In this super click, fast, move on kind of world, you can try something, and if it bombs and fails, you can move on to something else, and it's probably not going to be a huge panic. So if you are given suggestions that don't necessarily fit or you don't think it's going to be something for you, give it a shot, or maybe try to find a way that is going to fit more with your brand and how you like to do things. These people are here to help you. You have paid them to help you, so let them help you and just give it a shot. This also ties into my next suggestion, and that's kind of to ask questions. So if you are getting a report or something back from someone as to what you need to fix or what some good steps are going forward, and they really don't either resonate or make sense, ask questions. Yes, I know a lot of people are very concerned about sounding dumb, especially in like a social media kind of context, because it feels like this is everywhere and everybody knows everything, and like 12-year-old kids know more about social media than I do, which is probably true. But there are no dumb questions. And even if it is a dumb question, you are paying for this service. You are trying to get better. As long as you are not being super annoying and inundating this person with a bajillion questions, I'm sure they would be willing to clarify some of their points for you. So please do not be afraid to ask questions. You can get so much more value out of the suggestions that you're given if you understand them and know how to implement them properly. The next one is don't expect to be able to implement everything all at once, and nor do I think you should. So depending on what your results are, this could or could not apply to you. But if you have a lot of different suggestions of things that you should be implementing and you basically throw everything in there and something works, you really have no idea what worked and what didn't. Just kind of like in the scientific process where, you try and you change one variable and see what happens. And then you change another variable and then you see what happens. By doing that, you can find out what's working for you and what's not. If you throw all 27 suggestions that you have into your Instagram account, then all of a sudden things are starting to work well for you. You could spend the next several years constantly doing these 27 different things that don't make sense when it's really just one or two things that made all the difference. And the second reason is that it could be really, really overwhelming. If you had 27 suggestions given to you on how to change your Instagram platform and you tried to implement them all this week, that could end up being really, really stressful for you. First off, you're probably going to feel like you're starting over, and there's a really good chance that you're going to give up or feel that some of these suggestions just really aren't necessary. My suggestion would be to go through the suggestions that you were given, figure out the ones that make sense to you, start with those and build up. Some of them are going to be very, very minor, and depending on what your report says, you could probably maybe implement them all at once, and that's why I said this one will kind of vary a little bit. So if you only have 5 little minor changes and tweaks that you can make to your Instagram, then, go ahead, do them all. But if you have to make major changes, then implementing one major change at a time is going to be less stressful for you. It's going to be a heck of a lot easier to implement. You're probably going to stick with it a little bit more, and you're going to see which things yield results. And the last thing about getting the most out of your brand audit is do not assume this is going to be a quick fix or overnight success for you. Just because somebody has taken a look at your brand and told you the things that you need to fix or could change, or things that you might want to start implementing that you might be missing from the various different legs of your platform, then it doesn't necessarily mean by putting all of these things in place you're all of a sudden going to get all of these followers. If it's a TikTok thing, that you're suddenly going to go viral and that everything is just going to be awesome. There are things that you cannot control about social media. You can't make somebody sign up for your newsletter. You can entice them as much as you want, but some people just will not sign up because they are not interested. It doesn't matter. There are some things on TikTok that go viral that are ridiculous, and some things that should go viral that are amazing that get like 100 views. Some people are just not going to follow you on Instagram. It's just going to happen that way. So assuming that putting all these changes in is going to make you an overnight success is really setting yourself up for disappointment, because it's not going to happen. It is a possibility, yes, that you're going to implement these things and everything is going to be fantastic. But as you probably already know, if you're on some of these platforms, building things up takes time. And just by implementing all of these things and having a perfect Instagram account, which does not exist, by the way, still isn't necessarily going to give you all of this fame and followers and fortune overnight. This is not what a brand audit is promising. It is not what a brand audit is for. So if you go in there assuming that they're just going to fix everything and you're going to walk out with 1 million followers, you are going to be sadly, sadly disappointed. All right, so those are the things I have about getting the most out of your brand audit if you're interested in doing a brand audit. I felt that it was a really good experience for me. I learned a lot about some of the channels that I was in. There were things that I really didn't have a full grasp on that I didn't even know I didn't know. So by getting the brand audit, I feel like I understand those things a lot more, and that I have a lot better chance going forward to be more successful with them because I finally have a better grasp of what I'm doing. So for me, it was definitely very beneficial. I got some really great suggestions that I've already started implementing, and some that I still have yet to implement but are definitely coming down the pipe. So if you are interested in getting a brand audit, you can definitely check them out. If you are interested in Angela's services, I've included that in the description box below because I was very happy with what Angela offered me and the discussions and the report that I did get from her. So if that is something that you are interested in, you can definitely check that out. I'm not an affiliate with Angela at all. I'm just a satisfied customer, and I wanted to do a video about brand audits because I found it really interesting and something really helpful and something that I don't think a lot of authors know even exists out there. So I wanted to do this video. I let her know I was doing this video and that I was going to include her information as well. So this won't be a big surprise for her. But yeah, if you are interested and you do want to check her out, the link is there. There's no commitment. It's not like you click the link and boom, you have to get this done. So if you just kind of want to look into it and see what's available, that is one option, or you can just Google it. There's going to be a lot of other options there out on the internet that you can check out. So I had a great time with my brand audit. If you have any questions about a brand audit, please leave it in the comments below and I would be happy to answer them for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you're hitting that subscription bar and the notification bell below this video so you're not missing any of my content, and make sure that you're hitting that thumbs up while you're down there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys all next week.